I am still unable to read the accounts. I am still unable to comprehend it, even after weeks. Subsequently, it all began with such innocence. A supper party. In all honesty, Mark, my spouse of 22 years, has been working late on numerous occasions lately. He is a structural engineer, and it appears that there was a significant bridge project that was imminent. He was under a great deal of pressure, so when he eventually recommended that he dine with one of his friends as colleagues, I was delighted to have the opportunity to connect and perhaps hear some of his experiences. Life at work is similar to how we were. He was still with us, and his colleague was named Daniel. Mark had previously referenced him. He was described as a brilliant individual, a bit of I imagined a guy who was a workaholic but also a nice person. A youthful individual who has recently graduated from college and is enthusiastic to influence. The individual who entered our premises the evening of Friday was not quite as eventful as Daniel was, likely in his mid-50s. Possibly he was slightly older and had kind eyes that were framed by a salt that is carefully trimmed and has laugh lines, and he was not wearing a pepper beard. He was conventionally handsome, but he possessed assured gravitas, is best described as an air of calm competence and he conducted himself with an understanding, that a kind of understated contentment and ease, confidence that I unexpectedly discovered appealing. I am aware that I am content. I was married, or at least I was, and we reside in an old Victorian in upstate New York with a rambling appearance, all the creaking floorboards in the cozy York. I have gone all out because I adore to cook. And these nooks? Roast chicken with lemon and rosemary, roasted garlic, pureed potatoes, asparagus is the type of cuisine that conveys, "Welcome, please enter. Relax." The dining room was illuminated by when the candle was lit. The atmosphere was replete with the aroma of roasted chicken and the velvety texture. A murmur of the conversation was warm and personal, may also be. His heart was launched by an intimate imprint directly into the Bridges store talk. Stresses and strains associated with the undertaking. I endeavored to investigate the bureaucratic red tape, but occasionally nodding in curiosity. In all honesty, my thoughts began to. Nevertheless, Daniel was occupied, and he and Mark exchanged ideas with each other, voices fluctuating in tandem with the discussion's ferocity. I experienced the sensation of being an interloper, a bystander to I did not participate in the competition. I comprehended that consequently something altered. I am unable to determine the precise date, but Daniel turned to me and inquired, "So Sarah, what do you do? What do you do?" It was a straightforward inquiry, but the manner in which he posed the question indicated that he was not merely. He appeared to be sincere in his efforts to be courteous. I informed him about my pottery, as he was intrigued. I have been a potter for approximately 15 years. I am selling my work at local craft festivals, and I described the texture of the clay online. The satisfaction of influencing is in my possession. Something that is both functional and visually appealing, a lump of topsoil. He listened attentively to his eyes that never leave mine, that sound immensely satisfying, he stated. The voice is subdued and warm, and there is something so the fundamental aspect of functioning with one's hands, fabricating an object tangible. And abruptly we were unable to communicate about pottery anymore. We were conversing regarding the subject of creativity and passion. What is it that makes existence worthwhile? Discussed the sensation of being trapped in the apprehension of becoming stagnant, regarding the yearning for something more substantial. He discussed the demands of his occupation, constant obligations, the sensation of being. I discussed the tranquility with a cob in a machine, desperation that occasionally seeped into the sensation that I was merely passing through. The conversation was fluid when the individual moved effortlessly, much like a watercourse discovering its. In the course of our investigation, we identified a shared fascination with poetry, a passion of poetry history, a profound respect for the natural world's grandeur is a testament to its oblivious. Was still analyzing the bridge's load-bearing capacity. As the evening progressed, the tension in the room began to intensify, not a negative tension, not precisely, more akin to a magnetic pull. I was attracted to Daniel's personality, intelligence, sensitivity, and quietness. I also captured him gazing at me with strength. His pupils were filled with a special kind of acknowledgement, was distressing, profoundly profound and exhilarating. We relocated to an inappropriate location following dinner, the living room, for coffee. Mark, eventually detecting the alteration in the atmosphere, Daniel readily proposed a game of chess. I concurred and observed them play while enjoying my beverage. The silence was only interrupted by the coffee. The infrequent click of the pieces in sputum of concentration, but my attention was not focused on I was preoccupied with the game. Daniel, regarding the manner in which he grasped the chess pieces of his fingertips are long and graceful. The manner in which his forehead furrowed, concentration on the manner in which he periodically a subtle smile played on my face as she looked at me. Finally, at approximately 11 o'clock, Daniel stood up. He shook Mark's hand in gratitude before departing him for the evening, and he then turned to me. "It was a pleasure to meet you, Sarah," he stated in a soft voice. "I thoroughly enjoyed the dialogue we had." "Yes, Daniel," I voiced in response. Merely in a moment of hesitation, he whispered. He extended his hand and touched my hand. He may have expressed his feelings in a manner that was both firm and warm. Pupils meeting mine, we could continue at some time. My heart pounded in my chest. I was unable to speak. I simply bobbed my head. Cheekbones were flushed. He smiled with a knowing expression, and he proceeded to the door closed behind him as he departed, and suddenly, the home was devoid of any sound. I turned to Mark, who, as he has already cleared the coffee mugs, appeared to be unaware of the earthquake that my world was recently upended. "He is a commendable individual," Daniel, Mark said, dozing. "Really? He is well versed in his field." I concealed a shaky smile. "Certainly," I stated that he appeared to be it, and I proceeded to visit him. I was unable to sleep that night, as my mind was preoccupied. Was I hallucinating things, or did just happen? I am placing an excessive amount of emphasis on a straightforward supper conversation, but I was aware of the fact that something had changed. I had the impression that my existence had undergone a transformation. The situation would never be the same again. The subsequent days were unusual. I discovered that I was perpetually replaying the dinner in my mind, analyzing each syllable, each fleeting gaze touch. Was I losing my mind? Was this some manifestation of a midlife crisis itself in the guise of a slightly older, structurally extremely astute? I attempted to converse with Mark, the engineer, but I was unsuccessful. Was uncertain about how to approach the subject. How could I inform him that I had a relationship with his colleague? The connection was more profound and more significant than any emotion I had experienced before. Years. And how could I accomplish it without causing him pain, without causing him to feel as though I was disloyal? So I said nothing and buried it. I engaged in my task by immersing myself, and I created my pottery with a frantic intensity. Bowls, cups, vases, anything that will preserve my hands are occupied, and my mind is occupied, but even as I manipulated the clay, I was unable to banish the image of Daniel's. His voice, his gaze, and the sensation of his wrist in it was mine, and on Tuesday afternoon, I peered at the caller ID, which was unknown. Number. I hesitated for a moment, and then responded. The voice was subdued and the greeting was, "Hello, Sarah." My heart skipped a beat as I recognized the familiarity of the yes. He stated that. "I trust that I am not mistaken. I did not disturb you in the slightest. I am endeavoring to maintain a consistent tone in my voice." Was merely working. I was inquiring as to why he made such a slight comment. Silence in his intonation when he inquires whether you are available for lunch at some point this week. My breath caught in my larynx. I repeated, "Supper." He chuckled gently. "Yes, stupidly. No bridge designs or casual meal-bearing capabilities involved." I hesitated once more. This was irrational. I should not be engaging in this activity. Married, but the mere idea of encountering him is unbearable. Our discussion was once more resumed. Irresistible. I believed that I could handle the situation, as I previously stated. My voice is shaking. He expressed a minor enthusiasm for the idea, asking how a small bistro will be open tomorrow. I enjoy the area in the downtown area. Noon appears to be an ideal time. We hung up and I stood there for a while. For a brief period, my hand remained firmly gripped on the what had I just done? I had just arranged to have lunch with my husband's a colleague, a man who caused my pulse to race and my palms began to perspiration. This was going to be a catastrophe. But it is a part of me that is deeply rooted in a portion that had been inactive for an extended period of time. I am ecstatic, and I spent hours the following day, filled with excitement. After much deliberation regarding my attire, I selected a straightforward blue dress that I was aware that it was complimentary without being excessive, revealing that I applied a small amount of cosmetics sufficient to investigate. I desired to appear well dressed, but it was not as though I was exerting myself excessively. God felt as though I were an adolescent. I once again arrived at the bistro a few minutes later. Minutes ahead of schedule, my stomach is in a state of agitation. Nerves. It was a pleasant, small location with rusting iron and checkered tablecloths. The sunlight poured through the chairs. The vibrant environment is illuminated by expansive windows. The scene in which I observed Daniel seated at he was perusing a book at a table in the corner. As I approached, she raised her head and extended a warm embrace. "Sarah," he said with a smile. Said while standing to greet me, "You appear to be in good health." I reddened and replied, "Thank you." Murmured, "You appear to be in good health. You appear to be," and he chuckled at you. "I trust that it is a pleasant experience." We sat down and the attendant took our order. We both ordered salads in an effort to maintain one's health. The solitude was somewhat initially. It was awkward, but Daniel rapidly adjusted. He inquired about my pottery, which put me at ease. Regarding my family and my aspirations, he listened attentively and provided a thoughtful response. Comments imposing in-depth inquiries. He made me feel as though I was the most intriguing individual in the world. We conversed for hours, losing track of there was a time when we discussed everything, and we conversed, we chuckled, and we exchanged stories. I engaged in a debate regarding concepts that I believed I had understanding of. "I have known him for my entire life," and he then said something that left me in a state of awe. "He has stated that he will be leading forward. I feel as though I have known you for a long time. When my eyes meet yours, you will always be with me. As if we are inseparable kindred companions." The words hung in the air like spirits between us, charged with implicit meaning. I was unsure of what to say, so I simply gazed. I stared at him, my heart thundering in my chest. I reached across the table and grabbed his touch was electrifying. His voice was subdued and he said, "Sarah, sincere, I am aware that this is likely. I am unwilling to engage in an inappropriate activity. I cannot deny the connection, but I cannot overstep. I experience a sense of connection with you that I have not experienced before, never encountered before." My eyes welled up with tears. Had been anticipating the utterance of those remarks or something similar to them, and now that they were present and I was inundated. "Daniel, I am also experiencing it," I whispered. "I have been attempting to disregard it in order to maintain the illusion that it is not present, but it is not absent." He clutched my hand. "What should we do regarding it?" I did not have an answer when he inquired. I was unsure of what to do at all. I was aware that I was unable to ignore the situation. This was an undeniable fact that I could not disregard. I am uncertain as to what drew me to him. I spoke with a quivering voice. However, I am aware that I cannot simply appear to be doing so. He did not exist. He did not nod at me. Stated that we remained seated in silence for an extended period of time. The instant our hands were clasped together, that the weight of our unspoken emotions is oppressive. The world appeared to dissipate beneath us. This leaves only two of us who are similar in spirit. Had encountered each other in the most unforeseen of the circumstances. That the waitress presented to our table verified that the spell is being broken. We paid and exited the bistro. The air is brighter due to the sunlight. Sensation. The air was more refreshing as we stood on the sidewalk. Daniel approached me and inquired, "May I see you once more?" He beseeched his eyes, imploring them to help him. "Yes," I replied, nodding. "Please." He smiled a gentle, unhurried smile. "I will contact you," he stated. Afterward he departed, leaving me to remain in place. For an extended period of time, observing his disappearance. When I entered the throng, I experienced a sensation of being poised on the brink of a cliff, preparing to take a plunge into the location of this was unclear to me. But I was aware that I had to ascertain when I received a telephone call that evening. I was assisting Mark in the cleanup process following dinner, another solemn event, punctuated solely by the clatter of utensils and the occasional. I observed Daniel's telephone number and was obliged to exchange pleasantries. When a glimmer appeared on the screen, my heart skipped a beat. I collapsed due to a ridiculously small flutter. The abrupt necessity to verify a matter in the garden and slid outside, where foam was pressed to my ear. "Sarah," his voice was reminiscent of balmy honey. My frayed emotions were immediately soothed. "Hello, Daniel, I was curious if you were." He expressed hesitation regarding his availability this weekend. It was strangely, I was almost anxious. I may have said something endearing by appealing with the coy, "What did you possess?" Please keep in mind that a tiny art gallery is slated to open on Saturday in Hudson," he stated. "I am aware of you. I referred to your pottery and believe that it is not particularly elaborate, but it may be enjoyable. Local artisans, but it sounds delightful." Interrupting him, I expressed my desire to attend. He appeared to be legitimately surprised and delighted that it is excellent that we have arranged to meet at a coffee store in Hudson on Saturday. As I concluded my call in the afternoon, I experienced a sudden surge of despite the fact that remorse. Deceiving Mark felt awful. The contemplated spending time with Daniel. This connection was also investigated. I was strolling, and it was difficult to resist the allure. Tightrope and I were aware of it for the subsequent 2 days. Mark was preoccupied as the days passed by with the bridge project, working late and scarcely acknowledging my growing agitation. I informed him that I was preparing a weekend spent with a group of female acquaintances from the college was a flimsy fabrication that he accepted. Without hesitation, I selected my clothing and packed a compact bag with painstaking care. A desire to appear attractive for Daniel without actually appearing too crisp and contrived. Saturday arrived. I traveled to Hudson, a charming hamlet, on a sunny day. On the Hudson River, which is brimming with antiques, I discovered the stores and art galleries. Daniel was readily identified at the coffee shop. Waiting outside, resting against he appeared even more handsome against the brick wall. Clothed in a more informal manner than I recall, "Sarah," he stated, wearing a blazer and trousers. When he observed me, his countenance lit up. "You made it," I replied with a smile. "Of course. I would not want to overlook it." We entered the building, ordered coffee, and subsequently took a leisurely meander through the village. In unison, the atmosphere was permeated with the aroma of the sounds of laughter and the autumn foliage, and during our discussion, we investigated the antique stores that are admired for their vintage furniture and peculiar artifacts that we discussed. I was completely moved by the literature that was written about existence. Entirely at ease, I found the art gallery to be quite diminutive, inconspicuous, yet brimming with intriguing information. The paintings that we appreciated were the pieces that the photographs, the sculptures. Daniel appeared to be sincere in his interest in my opinion. By posing deliberate inquiries and attentively attending to my responses, we encountered a minor. My breath was taken away by the pottery display. The pieces were stunning, and my larynx was tingling. "Refined and evidently crafted with affection," Daniel exclaimed. "These are truly remarkable." Voice resonant with awe. "Do you know the artist?" I hesitated for a moment before responding. "Yes, Is it a friend of yours?" he inquired. In a sense, I replied, "It is me." His eyes were fixed on me, widened in astonishment. "You made these?" I nodded with a sense of pride. "Yes. I have been a potter for approximately 15 years. He gazed at the pottery for an extended period of time. He then turned to me and his eyes were flooded with tears. With amazement, "Sarah," he exclaimed, "these are extraordinary. You are exceedingly talented." This compliment was like an explosion to me. My soul. Mark had consistently been supportive of my pottery, but he had never truly. Daniel, on the other hand, comprehended it. Appeared to have a direct line of sight into my heart. Grateful for the enthusiasm, and we invested the time and the creativity that inspired me. The remainder of the afternoon will be spent exploring Hudson. Our connection is becoming more profound with each passing day. Shared a look at each whispered word as we discovered ourselves as the sun began to set. Situated on the Hudson River's shores, observing the vessels as they glide by the river. "Sarah," Daniel, "I am thoroughly enjoying myself," said, looking to. I have not experienced such a sense of vitality in a long time. I expressed that this is not my year nor Daniel's. "Special." He extended his palm and grasped my hand. His digits were intertwined with mine, and we, for an extended period of time, standing in silence, the sole sound emanating from the gentle rippling of the water lapping against the coast. Afterward, he leaned in and kissed me. The kiss was gentle and tentative, but it caused a sudden shock of electricity through my body. It was a kiss that conveyed a sense of yearning and desire, a connection that was more profound than I kissed him back, and my heart was filled with joy. My thorax was pounding as the world appeared to fade away, leaving only two spirits. Brought together by an irresistible force, we parted ways in a state of awe. Flushed. "I should not have done that." Daniel's voice was filled with regret. "I apologize," I replied. "Please refrain from being so." Out and caressing his face, "I wanted you also." His eyes were full with emotion as he gazed at me. With a combination of desire and with apprehension, "What is the next step?" he inquired, Sarah. I was unable to respond. I was aware that the actions we were taking were incorrect, that it has the potential to ruin I was aware that I was unable to enter into a matrimony, but I also knew walk away from Daniel. He has caused me to feel seen, heard, and comprehended in a manner that Mark has never. I may have uttered my voice without realizing it. I am trembling, but I am aware that I cannot simply pretend that this is not the case occurring. He nodded, his eyes filled with I was not able to comprehend what he was saying. We maintained our position for an extended period of time, our hands clasped together. The weight of our bodies were entwined together. The sun had choices that were bearing down on us. Set, and the sky was awash with color. The world was a magnificent place, but the situation was intricate and disorganized. Conceivably, I was aware that I was in a dire situation, and it was devastating. I was at a juncture where I was required to make a decision that would alter my existence. I was unaware of the term forever, however. The decision would be. My mind was in a state of tumult as I drove home, replaying the kiss and Daniel's remarks, an overpowering sense of affinity, the stirring of infatuation, desire, or possibly all three combined to create a potent cocktail of I was aware that I could not maintain this level of emotion. The remorse was consuming him for an extended period of time. Myself, Mark was alive when I entered the room. I am currently reading a book in the living room. Upon examining the book, he gazed upward with a weary grin on his. "Hey," he said, "how was the girls' weekend?" The inquiry remained unanswered. Heavy with cynicism, how could I possibly respond to that? "It was satisfactory," I replied. Attempting to convey a casual tone, we engaged in a significant amount of. He appeared to be nodding in agreement. Fulfilled, I proceeded to the kitchen and poured. I consumed a glass of wine and endeavored to relax my racing nerves. That night as I lay in bed next to Mark, I experienced a profound sensation of we were physically nearby, but we were experiencing loneliness. I knew I had to, despite the fact that we were emotionally distant, inform him of the truth, but I was unaware of the situation. How I awoke early the following morning and went for a walk in the fresh autumn air. I was able to clear my mind as I strolled. Came to the realization that I was unable to continue living. I was obligated to Mark, into myself to exist. To be completely honest, I returned home and prepared brunch, and awaited Mark's awakening when I requested that he sit down. When he arrived downstairs, "Mark," I spoke with a quivering voice. "We require in order to converse." He raised his eyebrows at me, furrowed with apprehension. "What is the matter?" Took a deep breath and informed him every aspect of the dinner with Daniel, regarding the rapport I experienced with him, regarding the art gallery, regarding the brunch, regarding the encounter. I refrained from providing any additional information, exposing my essence in all its tangled glory, bewildered splendor. He listened in silence, his expression becoming increasingly tense. As I completed each word, his complexion became pallid. He remained seated, gazing at the floor. Irises were filled with anguish and the incredulity of "How could you do this, Sarah?" he inquired with a voice that was scarcely audible. "I am uncertain after all these years," said with tears cascading down my face. "I might regret that I inadvertently caused you harm. However, you did," he stated, his voice rising. "Betrayed me, you betrayed our marriage." I did not contest his assertion. I was aware that he was correct. Betrayed. We conversed for hours, arguing and weeping, and endeavoring to comprehend the events that had transpired. Mark was justifiably enraged by the events that had inflicted pain, but he also appeared bewildered. He was unable to comprehend why I would be willing to take a risk. Everything for someone I had only recently met. I attempted to elucidate the situation to him when we first met. Explain the sensation of intimacy, that the sense of being seen and understood, but I was aware that he was incapable of comprehending the situation in its entirety. He had never encountered anything comparable. In the end, we mutually consented to its separation. It was the most difficult decision of my life, but we were both aware that we were unable to continue cohabitating under these circumstances. The trust was violated, resulting in harm. A Mark that is irreparable was relocated a few days ago. The home manifested a sense of emptiness and silence. I spent the subsequent weeks without him. In a state of muddled mourning and regret, I neglected to attend. I felt terrible for him, but I was also aware that it was impossible to revert to the previous state of affairs. I contacted Daniel and informed him of the situation. He was astounded and disheartened by the events that transpired. "The news? I am so sorry, Sarah," he said. "I have never intended to cause you any discomfort. It is Daniel, it is not your responsibility." I stated that we both, during our lengthy conversation, we made decisions. In an effort to ascertain our subsequent course of action, we were both aware that a relationship between us would be laden with complications and challenges, but we were also aware that we were unable to disregard the connection we experienced. We resolved to proceed at a leisurely pace in order to gain a deeper understanding of one another, in order to determine whether we are compatible, could establish a relationship on the basis of. We went on dates with honesty and respect. We conversed for hours and discussed our aspirations and apprehensions. It was not an easy task. There were instances, moments of uncertainty and regret occur when I contemplated whether I had made the appropriate decision. Determination, however, there were also instances of happiness. Instances of intimacy, moments in which I deeply felt Daniel and I are still alive 1 year later. We have continued to construct an existence together. An existence brimming with affection, amusement, and comprehending that it is not the existence I imagined for myself, but it is an existence that looks genuine, and Mark and I are still in contact. Was able to establish a rapport, albeit a fragile one. He has even remarried. Appears to be pleased. Consequently, I am pleased for them. Looking back, I can observe that my significant turning point occurred during dinner with Daniel. In my life, it served as a catalyst that compelled I must confront my own dissatisfaction in order to evaluate my priorities and to determine decisions that ultimately resulted in a more satisfying path. It was not a simple one. It was painful and messy and intricate. But it was imperative that I liberate myself from the patterns of my life that are both comforting and stagnant in old existence in order to embrace a new one, an existence that is characterized by passion, purpose, genuine connection, and at moments the most unanticipated turns of events lead us to the most attractive destinations. It simply requires the courage to pursue. Like what you heard. There's plenty more heartbreak and secrets to come. Hit like, subscribe, and stay curious with Tangled Truths.